Today, I want to talk to you about a mystery. I want to talk to you about this cover over here. It was sent to Israel from New York in September of 1950. How did this Arabic label end up? All this and more in this episode of... For those of you who don't know, the State of Israel was declared on Friday afternoon on the 14th of May 1948, just as the British mandate was about to end. The British mandate actually ended on the 15th of May, but that was a Saturday, our Sabbath, and therefore we couldn't declare our statehood then, simply because we wanted people to come all the way from wherever to sign the document of declaration. The 15th of May, the following day, the Saturday, was the day that the mandate was actually supposed to end. And that day, 5 neighboring countries invaded us, including Egypt. Now, the fighting went on for many, many months, with ceasefires and so on, and we won't get too much into it. But in the end, Egypt had captured Gaza, okay? And in February of 1949, there was an armistice agreement in the city of the island of Rhodes, in which Ralph Bunche mediated the talks. Ralph Bunche eventually was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. But what was decided there was armistice lines. Now, enough of the boring stuff, the history, okay? Let's get into the juicy part of this. Okay? Now, knowing that there was going to be a war, so many airlines stopped flying, including TWA. They stopped flying at the beginning of March of 1948. The fighting continued, and TWA only started up in July of 1949. And the flight went from New York and had a stopover in Rome, Athens, and on to Tel Aviv, the Lida airport, which today is Ben Gurion Airport. Now we talk about the cover in question. A TWA flight left New York on a Monday at 18th of September 1950, landed in Rome late at night, and was supposed to go to Athens and land in Athens the following day on the 19th, early morning. However, somehow, no one actually knows, it didn't land in Athens. Or no one actually knows that it lands in Athens because there's actually no documentation about it. But it didn't arrive in Tel Aviv. It arrived instead in Cairo. How did it arrive in Cairo? No one is really sure. And that's where the mystery is. Because somehow, somewhere, even after 70 years, there's no information. I can't find it in any of the newspaper clippings or anything. Some people have said that the flight landed in the Gaza Strip, which would have made a lot of sense because the Gaza Strip is in the Holy Land area. But even that doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? Because for 2 reasons. Number one, if they were already going to Gaza Strip, they could have gone to Lida, which is only just less than 100 kilometers away. On the other hand, Gaza didn't have an airport. It didn't have a landing strip. And there's no newspaper clipping that says that a plane all of a sudden landed there. That being said, the plane happened to be in Cairo. Now, what did they do? At the Cairo airport, they took off all the mail bags. There were 19 mail bags. And they took them off the plane and didn't let the plane go. As of 20th of September 1950, in other words, almost a day later, the plane still hadn't been released. And neither had the mail. The plane was eventually released because it made its way to Tel Aviv. Eventually, I'm not sure when. But what about the mail? Now, the mail was not returned. And pressure was brought to the UPU by Israel authorities and American authorities. Eventually, it was returned to sender, but only after being censored. You can see the ceiling sensor. Here's the ceiling sensor. And what better way to find information about an enemy state, because it was still literally a state of war, Although there was an armistice agreement, it was still a partially stated war, and they wanted information. Spy versus spy. James Bond, whatever you want to call it. Intrigue. So they took off the mail and censored it, sealed it, as you can see, and returned it to sender. The mail eventually arrived back in Israel in about February 1950 up to April 1950. Many people got the mail, some people didn't. There's not that much mail left from that specific flight. Now, let's go on to the next question. There were 14 passengers on that flight. 14 passengers, some of who were Jewish, some of who were Australians. What about them? They were in an enemy country, by definition, Egypt. What happened to them? The newspapers don't mention anything. There's nothing to be found. All the research I've looked at, all the newspaper articles, I found nothing. Actually, that notification about this flight or media notification is lacking. After 70 years, I've still found minimal information. So if anyone has more information than I do, please let me know. Okay. Now, this kind of mail is known as interrupted mail because the flight was actually interrupted. There's another kind of another subject called pas de service or no service, which it also falls in because basically Egypt cannot forward the mail to Israel because there were no postal relations. So it had to return to sender. So it returned to sender to, say, Italy or America or wherever. Very few mail is known from Italy, but there are some covers. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you soon. Bye.